You are with the big story here. I'm Seher Zama. In what we are focusing this evening, the Supreme Court verdict regarding the demolition of the Maradu flats that has sparked a close inspection of all buildings in Kerala, all residential complexes, to check if they're violating the coastal regulation zone. The Kerala government has now submitted an affidavit in the High Court here saying this is a huge number, saying that 625 buildings across the state are indeed in violation of the CRZ. According to that affidavit, 383 of these buildings are located in Ernakulam, 212 in Alappuzha, and 30 of these buildings in Kottayam. The demolition notices have been issued by the area Gram Panchayat. Supreme Court had directed the Kerala government to submit a report here related to these CRZ violations across the state. This is what we are asking today. Is it fair that builders go ahead and fleece you for your own home, your dream home that you're buying? Eventually, it is us who pay the price, because these are demolition notices. Even if we're compensated, that could be a long drawn-out process, but our houses are to be demolished. We're going to be discussing this further in detail. First, let's get in more ground inputs. We have with us our correspondent Vivek with those details here. Vivek, this is a huge number of buildings that we're looking at. It would be equally imperative that each of the homeowners here are promised a compensation, not knowing when it would eventually come.
Exactly, 625 buildings, mostly, residential plots in and around the Vembanad Lake in Ernakulam and Alappuzha and Kottayam are now facing the axe. The Kerala report has been submitted in the Kerala High Court, which clearly states that, the demolition notices has been served. Now, remember, these are the aftermath of the Maradu apartment issue, where 358 flats will be demolished starting from October 11th after the Supreme Court order. Now, this is going to be a very, very difficult, challenging and a complicated, situation as far as the municipality and the government is concerned. Because, see, even if you look at this 358 flats, most of these families who have, been left out, most of the families who have been evicted, does not have a proper house to stay. The government is not able to provide all of them, at least most of them, an alternative source of livelihood, at least, of the standard which they were living till now. Because remember, most of these flats have been bought between 2010 and 2015, and they have paid 75 to 1 crore, 75 lakhs to 1 crore, and it's 25 lakhs compensation that's been provided for them. They say that 25 lakhs is not at all enough for them. They need to be provided more, because it's their hard-earned money, and that has been
but Vivek, are each of these
just after a Supreme Court
are each of these buildings to be treated now as individual cases, or given the fact that they have now figured on the list of CRZ violations, they're going to be treated the same across the board? Each of them offered 25 lakhs compensation and a demolition. Is that a given, or each of these are going to be treated as separate cases to be revisited then?
Now, remember, as far as these 625 cases are concerned, that is going to be a separate case, because that is nothing to do with the Marad apartment, because the 25 lakh compensation is going to be given for the 325 flats, the families, who have been evicted from Maradu. The other cases is yet to be ascertained as the compensation or whatever it is, because they need to see, because see, for each houses, be it the residential plot or the non-residential, they need to see what kind of violation. Now, since the demolition notices have been served, one thing is for very sure, the people over there, the families over there has to be evicted and the buildings has to be demolished. Now, whether or not a compensation is going to be given, that needs to be seen. Now, it is very, very shocking, because 625 is the numbers of just 3 districts. There are 14 districts in Kerala, and what I understand from my sources is that at least 1,800 such, buildings, small and big establishments across the state have violated the CRZ norms, and that is exactly what has been, informed by the government. And it needs to be seen which are these high-rise buildings, which has been violated the norms. Remember, in case of Marad apartment, at least in H2O and Alpha Serene and Jain Coral Coke, these have been built. These buildings have been built 15 to 20 meters from the Vembanad Lake. And that is exactly the reason why, according to the
Okay,
CRZ2
okay,
norms back in 2008, that the buildings
okay.
showcase notice has been served to them, and that has been challenged later. But the Supreme Court in 2019, when the coastal zone management approached the Supreme Court, it made it very, very clear, saying that all these buildings have clearly violated the CRZ norms and hence has to be demolished. Now, it needs to be seen as, how other buildings are going to be treated, whether they will be demolished or, whether, if at all a compensation will be given, because Supreme Court has informed the state government that a
Okay.
detailed report of complete violations across the state has to be submitted in the next 1 month. So it needs to be seen as what kind of report the state
Okay.
government is going to be submit in the Supreme Court, which are the buildings which are going to be there. So all these things, it is up to the coastal zone management, the municipality and the corporation and the Gram Panchayat
All
of the
right.
concerned
Well,
district,
Vivek, please stay on with
to
us.
ascertain how many.
Let's get in a word here from an environmentalist. We have CR Neelakandan with us over the phone line. Appreciate you being with us. Are you in agreement with this action that the government would perhaps need to go ahead with if there is a building that is now already been constructed, been around for a few years, a demolition of it in which people are losing homes? That could not possibly rectify the wrong that has been done, the damage to the environment been done in that given area already?
No. I'm personally, what I'm thinking is ousting any person from their house is a very, very painful thing. I agree that it is very difficult for any person to go out of their house where they are living. But the question is different. As you are, somebody has spoken earlier, I think you are a reporter or something. There are hundreds of violations even in and around Cochin on this CRZ rules. CRZ rules are there only for violation, not for. So in person, I have gone to the court and public at least on 15 violations in last 1 year. So if that is happening repeatedly,
but Mr. Neelakandan, should this be a case of no violation now and henceforth, or should this be a case of demolishing buildings that have now already been built, where people have been living in their homes for years now?
No, one thing, your question is correct, because if somebody can assure that no violation further, it can be regularized. But regularization of that building will lead to more and more violations. That is what happened in the case of DLF. See, DLF building, which has violated more than these Marad buildings, it was settled by the same Supreme Court with some sort of fine, which is a meager amount when you compare to the cost. In a flat which is constructed 600 and odd crores of rupees, and one flat costing more than 2 crores, you are asked to pay 1 crore as fine for the whole thing. Actually, our people have gone for review on that case.
Okay.
Anyway, it is not taken. So what I'm saying is that decision, decision has given courage for.
Okay, please stay with us. Mr. Nair, who is the CRZ member, a part of the Builders Association here as well. Mr. Nair, thank you for being with us. Raghu Chandra Nair there. These have been buildings so far that have been identified by the Kerala government and submitted to the court. In your view, should all of them now undergo demolition? Because this is a clear violation. The builders have hoodwinked the home buyers, and this needs to be demolished. Do you think that would be corrective measure here?
No, I don't think that you should use the word called hoodwink. We as part of CRZ, we believe in code of conduct, and we normally don't do this sort of hoodwinking and all that. What you have to understand that there's a tendency in India and also in Kerala that normally it's always the case that, you find if something goes wrong, you find that, you put the whole blame on a builder. I don't understand what is the logic behind it, number one. Number two, you must understand that the builder who buys a property is not going. I don't think anybody buys problem. Nobody buys and pays for a problem to buy a property and get into a problem. You see, a builder, when he buys, he does due diligence and after assessing all the facts, only he gets into a project. In this particular case, also the builder has done the same. What you have to understand that as far as the Kerala is concerned, a builder who buys a property will have to go through the normal rules of the Kerala building rules. When he goes through the Kerala building rules, when he applies for a sanction, there is an authority which is a government-approved authority. The Panchayat is the one who is supposed to give the sanction. If the Panchayat feels that the property abutting a water body, they should have sent this application to say. The real culprit in the whole process is still the
Right, but Mr. Nair, this is not what we usually saw. Yes, yeah, I appreciate your point that you're raising here, that action needs to be taken against those government authorities who gave the go-ahead to the builders to construct this. But this is not a process of due diligence which is always followed. We have seen cases here in which builders are going ahead, signing up, starting construction, and perhaps getting those licenses somehow midway through the construction, or perhaps getting them late in the day. Let's get in our correspondent Vivek with those inputs here. Vivek, this is not just about home buyers' right to their home. It's also about not just questioning the builders here, but also the government authorities. We have seen several cases here in either party where licenses are bought, arm twisted, or whichever manner to go ahead with that construction to finally get that complex ready.
See, in this particular case, it is not right, or it is not fair to just blame the builder alone. Because see, if you should also look at the involvement of the local self-government. In 2008, it was a Maradu Panchayat who was there. It was only in 2010 that it became municipality, and it was them who actually managed to actually kind of influence the minds of these people, because it is not just a builder, it is a local self-government. The government officials who were there at that point of time, should take a responsibility for this kind of thing. And also the coastal zone management, they were supposed to form a 3-member committee in 2008 by the Supreme Court. And they in turn formed a subcommittee without the knowledge of the Supreme Court, and without hearing the grievances of the affected party. In this case, it's the flat owners. They filed a report in the Supreme Court. Now that has caused the whole thing, where the Supreme Court clearly said that the building has to be demolished. Now, one of the major thing which the flat owners have been telling is that, why didn't you listen to us? Why didn't you listen to our grievance? Because they're the affecting party. They're the people who have been paying tax for the last 8 to 10 years. And for these 8 to 10 years, that there was no issue. And it was only in 2019, May 9, that the Supreme Court finds that they have flouted the CRZ rules and regulations. So there is a mistake in the part of the government officials in the municipality and the panchayat officials in this particular case. But as of now, since the Supreme Court has made it very, very clear that the inmates or the family members should move out of this place, it is, the duty of the government to make sure they are being provided alternative source of livelihood. Because remember, most of the families are still not being provided the alternative source of livelihood. They have not been given the complete compensation. 20 lakhs is what they're asking, and that the government said that in a month's time that they will give it.
Yes,
By
please stay with us, Vivek. Let's get in one of the affected party here. We have Mr. Manoj C. Nair, Maradu flat owner, as well as senior advocate. Mr. Nair, thank you for being with us. Do you think this is compensation enough? Because at the end of the day, if there has been a violation, there are the home buyers who are stuck in the middle. These are flats that you've been living in, but is this compensation enough?
At the onset, let me be telling very clear that I am not a senior advocate, but I'm an advocate practicing in the Supreme Court of India. At the same time, staying in one of the flats called Jain Coral Cove in 11H. I personally feel it is a thorough injustice that is presented to the flat owners, or the end users, who have never been heard by the Honorable Supreme Court. It is a blatant violation of the principles of natural justice in the first and the foremost place. This judgment will go down in the history of Indian judiciary as a black judgment. I definitely would say that this is the limit with regard to a judicial decision. Because Article 142 of the Indian Constitution says there should be total justice with regard to what is being done or what is being catered to. But here the end users in the form of the apartment owners have never been heard. As rightly said, the three-member committee constituted by the Supreme Court of India should be tried for perjury because they have committed a grave breach of mistake on record by way of giving a false affidavit in Supreme Court when this happens to be in 2002 CRZ. It has been quoted as 2003 CRZ. No owners or no aggrieved people has been heard. We are not at fault in any way. We have not infringed any law of the land. We are law-abiding citizens. We have taken this apartment, bought this apartment by taking bank loans. And end of the day, why should we be made to suffer like this? And why should we be thrown out of our hard-earned abodes onto the streets with no backup, nothing?
Yes. Yes, Mr. Nair, very eloquently put across. Please stay on with us. We're getting in more voices. Mr. Ravindran, urban planner, designer in Delhi with us. Mr. Ravindran, this is one of the most popular states, so to say, that we're looking at in Kerala, also driven by massive construction of residential complexes here. Do you think this is a crackdown which is fair on the home buyers, because home buyers are not scrutinizing legal paperwork which the builder assures has been brought forth, has come in legally with enough licenses?
It is a very complex case where both the delays in actually preparing a coastal management plan for Kerala in the initial stages and the subsequent neglect of that law is in which the local municipality and the developers as well as the buyers are compliant. Because, ignorance of the rule is not an excuse. They should have done due diligence before they bought the property. And even if they are producing local licenses and so on, they are still running the risk of coming under the gambit of the law, because the law is an all-encompassing law. So I don't think ignorance of
no,
law.
Mr. Ravindran, are you suggesting, Mr. Ravindran, are you suggesting that if any builder is telling us, the home buyer, that due diligence has been done here, we have to get in our own legal team, we have to hire our own lawyer to check that the paperwork is in place as a home buyer? Is that what we're required to do now?
Yeah, because they're investing their life savings. And even when we buy a small property without all these conditions, we go into all the papers quite carefully. And when it is done in a crowd and there's a developer who looks so self-assured and so sure of what he or she is doing, one tends to believe them. But that is no excuse for...
Okay, let's have the home buyer respond to this. Mr. Nair, Mr. Manoj Nair, if you heard that, you of course are not just the Maradu flat owner, you're a legal voice here, senior Supreme Court lawyer as well. It would be easy perhaps to you to scrutinize legal paperwork, but for anyone else as a home buyer who's going ahead would be given this huge paperwork of documents and licenses apparently which are legally taken in by the builders. It now becomes incumbent on the home buyer to scrutinize each of those documents even legally, even if the builder there says that this is stamped paperwork document here of a license of all clearances that have been provided. We can't take that on face value.
Number one, let me just make it very clear. As you rightly said, I'm a lawyer in the Supreme Court, at the same time also a tenant affected, owner affected in this process. I have not taken the apartment on my own self. I had actually availed a bank loan from the State Bank of India, Revipuram branch in Ernakulam, who said the project is approved and all legal work and paperwork has been thoroughly scrutinized before they have approved the builder and the project. Now, this being the case, as far as I'm concerned, I have complied to the due diligence process because I have myself ensured that the bank is financing this project based on the collateral security it is gaining in the form of my apartment, and it is giving a secured loan on the apartment.
Right.
And they have financed.
You have done due diligence. The bank has also come on board with a secured loan. So, Mr. Nair, who's at fault here? Is the builder who's provided a fudged paperwork, or is it the government authority which has given the go-ahead to the builder? Who's at fault here then?
There is the builder, the local self-government, the bankers, which has been augmented by the inefficiency of the government to check the right things at the right time. This is the problem. And we hapless apartment owners have been taxed.
This is the problem, and this is a huge system to fight and scrutinize as a single home buyer. Extremely unfair to home buyers with a simple intent to buy a home, to be scrutinizing and fighting against a whole system standing alone. Let's get in Major Ravi, another Maradu flat owner with us over the phone line. Major Ravi, thank you for being with us. It has now been identified it's not just the Maradu complex. There are a total of 625 buildings across Kerala in violation of the CRZ.
See, it's not the question now about 625 or above. It will be about 1,000 flats also. That's not the question. I just would like to say something regarding this. See, when you buy a flat, you trust the people, builder, and the builder is getting the permission time and again, and he's doing, and some litigations, and they go to the court and come back and all this thing, then the builder will say, okay, we got this permission. Somewhere he bribes. He's a businessman. I will not put the blame onto the builder saying that purposely they cheated us. But as a businessman, he will do all these things. Now, my question is that when we, the innocent people, now when I say innocent, people say, Major Ravi, you are an educated person, you should have read the complete rules and regulations and all these things. I simply ask those people that when an insurance company or when any loan comes, they come with 50 to 100 pages of file, and we just sign it on the side. Nobody is practically reading the rules and regulations and everything. It's a trust. Okay, fine. Once that is over, now when we are punished, now that is also now when Supreme Court orders come. First of all, I'm not blaming the Supreme Court or anybody. I'm blaming the person who is responsible, an IAS officer who was assigned by the Supreme Court to find out what is the reality, what is the fact on this Marad flats, whether it is in CRZ 3 or 2.
Okay.
When it is on CRZ 2, he just wrote that.
So Major Ravi, that's also the argument, not just hold the builder responsible, hold the concerned government officer, authority responsible for giving that go-ahead, because this is a violation which has been done even by the government officer on ground. Violation of the CRZ 2 zone there. But Major Ravi, let me ask you this: should you think there should be a appeal in the Supreme Court on grounds of human rights?
See, when the Supreme Court is not even ready to accept or hear our plea, then where are we going to go and plead to whom? The moment this file is going, or writ petition or any appeal going, immediately that has been thrown out. Even today morning, it was thrown out and saying that, okay, I don't want to listen to anything, break it. Now, in that situation, let me ask you one thing. Even if you get a death sentence, there is an ultimate appeal going to the President of India, and people get a life sentence and walk off. Now, what is the crime what we have done? I frankly is telling you, yesterday, I was not here because when my wife was supervising my breaking of my house, it was not the bricks which she was breaking. She was crying because there was a lot of dreams which were broken. You should understand the sentiments of the people. There were old people. There were children. They were crying. Why? Because they painted all over the wall and their dreams were on the walls. They don't understand. Now, they are just thinking that my papa, I don't know, my papa and mommy has been thrown out. Why don't you understand the humanitarian side of it?
Major Ravi, that is heart-wrenching. We appreciate you opening to us in this manner and discussing this. This is undoubtedly a crisis. Our correspondent Vivek, thank you for those details. Other voices who've spoken to us here on this as well. Yes, we should all together agree in protecting the environment. Development not going to the extent of risking the price of the environment here. But now that you have people living in their homes with no fault of theirs, they haven't broken any law. It is the entire system that is worked towards in building these complexes. It has been a violation by the government officer on ground and giving that go-ahead, a violation by the builder a violation by the bank in legalizing that loan? How does one single homeowner fight against the whole system? What we're looking at today is people losing their homes. Perhaps the Supreme Court could revisit this based on a human ground here as well. Thank you for being with us.